Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. Today is November 17th. I am Kathy, and welcome to Yarn with Heart. Today, in this yarn chat, I have two works in progress, a bunch of granny squares ready to join, and a blanket that is a work in progress. The tips of this week are about granny squares, using scraps for a granny square blanket. Welcome back, and thank you so much to everyone who's been watching the videos, commenting, and subscribing. And anyone who is new, welcome. Each week on Friday, I share my works in progress and any finished items. Patterns that I use are mostly ones that are free or have a free option available. When I show my project, I will try to let you know the yarn and hook size that I used, and also try to share a few tips that help me along the way. So first of all, for a work in progress that I'd like to let you know about, this one I'm using Bernat Softy Baby. One of the yarns is in this one called Little Mouse, and the other one is Little Trees. The pattern is called Bernat Fruity Stripes. It's a crochet baby blanket by Hannah Brown McKay from Daisy Farm Crafts. It's available on Yarnspirations, and I will link the pattern in the description. I will type where to find the pattern in the description below. My blanket is about 31 inches wide. I'm using 106 chains for my starting chain. This pattern called for, I believe, a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, but I'm actually using a 6 millimeter crochet hook for mine, and I found that that's working out quite well for me. So far, my work in progress is 25 inches in length. So I'm hoping this will take me maybe next week to finish. I don't know if it's going to take me longer than that or not. So that one's my first work in progress. The second thing that I've been working on, I found a tutorial on Krista from the Secret Yarneries YouTube channel. It's called the Zigzag Hexagon. I watched that tutorial and I found she was doing hers in hexagon. However, I thought I might want to do mine in squares, and because the row prior to it turning into hexagon had 12 spots in it, which divides by 6 and also divides by 4, I could easily make this into a square rather than the hexagon. I really liked these motifs that she had in her tutorial, and that was why I really wanted to do this particular tutorial. Hers is also available as a paid pattern on her website, and I will link this also in the description below. I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook. Now, for my yarn, I for some time was saving up yarn scraps. These are my 8 wraps per inch yarn scraps. If anybody would like me to explain in a future video what wraps per inch is, let me know in the comment section. I'm Anyway, this was my 8 wraps per inch. This is what I have left after doing the granny squares. Many of these scraps were Red Heart with Love and Bernat Pop leftovers. I looked on the Yarn Sub website and I found those 2 yarns would work very well together. So that's why I thought, wonderful, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make granny squares with this. I will show you a picture up in the corner somewhere of what I was starting with. And many of the scraps that I had were very short. Some of them were just enough to do only the center square. I used a technique that's described by Jada in Stitches, and I thank Jada for describing this. And I'm really happy that I remembered about it, because Jada had said you can make a granny square, make your first one, and then find out how many yarn lengths you need to make subsequent squares. So what I did was I made that first square, tore it back apart, and then found out how many yarn lengths. For example, 1 yarn length is what I needed for the middle square. If I had a length of yarn that was 2 yarn lengths long in my scrap pile, I knew that that was enough for my second row of my squares. And so therefore I could maximize how I was using these. I'll show you some examples of the squares that ultimately I will be putting together. And what I really loved is that this worked up very quickly for me. What wasn't wonderful is there are a lot of yarn ends to tie in. So this is how many ends I find in 1 square. So that's the other side of it. Just to fair warning, there are a lot of ends. Now, I just want to refer to my notes because there were quite a few things I did want to share about these. Oh, the other 2 things that I wanted to mention about. One is when I was tying in my first end, once this first circle was made using a magic ring, for myself to hold that magic ring secure, I always put a very small knot in there to hold that secure. I know a lot of people don't want to put a knot at all in their crochet, but I feel that I just want to make sure that that doesn't slip open and somehow start to unravel. That's one of the things that I do. And the other thing is, as I put out my squares and decided on the organization of color that I wanted in my final blanket, what I did was I set them up in a row, and then I tied them together in the row that they will ultimately end up being in. For example, this one is row 1, and they're tied together in the row in which I will eventually sew them together. So this coming week, I plan to join the squares using some Red Heart with Love, which I did purchase, and that's going to be in an off-white color, and I'll probably make the outside border in a combination, either a combination of off-white and some of this green, which I do have enough left of, or just off white. So that's everything for this week, and I hope that those little hints and tips will help someone as they're making granny squares. This year has really been a year for granny squares for me. I hadn't made many, maybe I made one or two prior to 2023, and this year I feel like I really did get quite a bit of experience making them. So I've had a lot of fun with granny squares in 2023. So to everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your crochet. Enjoy your knitting, and I hope to see you next Friday.